We have today as our first speaker Cynthia Bowen, who is the president of the APA board. Cynthia is a planner who has come up through the ranks in urban planning. She is a dynamo. She has boundless energy and has been just a real inspiration from a leadership perspective. I'm going to ask her before she starts her comments to go ahead and draw the winner of...
You need to hold it above my head.
So I don't cheat. Okay, the winner is Matthew Jones from the town of Argyle. Matthew, are you here this morning?
All right. We'll find Matthew and get this to him. I'm going to turn the podium over to Cynthia. And she's going to talk today about the state of APA and the initiatives that she is spearheading with the board.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for that kind introduction. Well, how about those Astros? I thought I knew if I said good morning, I wasn't going to get a very good response, but even that was a little lackluster for the Astros, guys. Come on. Well, I am very happy to be here at this conference. You know, as president of APA, I get invited to many different conferences across the country, and I really am amazed about how much great planning is going on across this great country. But you know what? You guys here in Texas have not disappointed. And I've heard this saying many, many times, everything is bigger in Texas. And from a planning standpoint, you guys certainly have achieved that mark. Before I get started into my remarks, I do want to have the board members of the Texas chapter stand up and be recognized. So come on, guys. Now I'm also checking to see how many of you are here. These folks work very hard on your behalf for this organization, and they are the first point of contact with our members for this organization, so I truly thank you for everything that you do. So I really want to spend some time talking with you about the planning challenges we as planners confront and how APA is responding to those challenges and how we can advance the policies so that all members can build great communities. I truly do believe that planning is the essential profession, especially in this period of great global uncertainty. And this uncertainty is driven by big issues that are very much related to the state of communities and planning. In this era marked too often by gridlock and partisanship, we at APA are working very hard to empower citizens, find common ground, advance solutions, and cultivate the kind of economic prosperity and innovation that builds communities of lasting value for all. Oh, I just hit the wrong thing. There we go. I argue that we have a special obligation, the knowledge, and the training to confront these challenges. And when you consider these issues that we face in the U.S. and around the world, you're going to find in part that in each case, part of this problem is a connection to quality of place and quality of community. Think for a moment about how these really big drivers of today's uncertainty, persistent inequality, climate change, migration, rapid urbanization, slow economic growth, accelerating technological changes, and limited policies for inclusive growth. You will find that how we build our cities, our neighborhoods, towns, and infrastructure all have a direct bearing on how we solve these problems. In each case, these issues have a spatial and social dimension that makes planning relevant. At least part of the problem stems from a lack of connection to quality of place and quality of community, like I mentioned before. But planning, when done boldly and well, has the potential to address each of these issues. So what is APA doing? Part of this response is to recommit ourselves to the values of ethics of good planning. Our agendas for research, advocacy, and education and member services will focus on building communities that are stronger, healthier, smarter, and more just. Let me start off with research. Unfortunately, many of you in southern Texas are now aware of the materials and resources the APA has regarding resiliency and rebuilding after disaster. Let me take a moment to talk about a specific initiative of APA and our foundation. And Kimberly mentioned this at lunch yesterday. So we've started a special drive within our foundation that will increase the amount we're able to give to help the communities that have been affected by disasters. So anyone who donates we started this in September, between September and December 31st, the foundation is going to match that dollar for dollar. So this effort is really going to allow us to double our impact on these affected communities. And really, more importantly, it's planners helping planners. So you can go online at www.planning.org/foundation to donate. And I will also tell you, if any of those planners are here in the audience today, our customer service members and customer service staff really will work with you to be flexible with things like dues payments and other administrative activities, because we understand the hardship. We did this when Sandy and Katrina hit. So we're going to work with you as long as it takes until we get those things resolved. On a resilience front, APA has been active through our Hazards Planning Center. Many of you know Jim Schwab. He's our former staff member that was in charge of the Hazards Planning Center, and he's here somewhere amongst us today. Through this initiative, APA has developed a generation of standards and practice for both pre- and post-hazard planning. And we really were learning from our experiences provided on the ground when we provided on-the-ground assistance to communities after Katrina and Sandy. And we still continue to provide that assistance today through case study examples, phone calls, and hands-on training, as well as CPATs to these communities. And so we've been really able to get on the ground and help Texas, Louisiana, and Florida as they're going through this horrible time. So I know there was a session the other day about the Plan for Health, and you guys have done a lot of great things with that program here in Texas. This is one of our research centers, and really one of the significant efforts that APA has undertaken within our organization. When we started this initiative, we looked at ideas for improving public health through planning in the context of things like active transportation, access to parks and recreation, aging in place, age-friendly design, and food systems. And we're finding more and more that health is uniting for a wide array of planning work and has also become very popular with the public. So we ended up partnering with the American Public Health Association and the CDC in prevention on the Plan for Health project. And so the last 3 years, we have been working on this initiative, and it has been incredibly successful between the partnerships of our chapters with their local health associations. So the last research topic that I want to talk about is smart cities. And so clearly this idea of smart cities has really become a widespread topic of discussion. And we heard the 3 mayors yesterday talk about it. At APA, we've started to do some research on this. We had a task force in place in 2015 that addressed this issue and put forth a white paper for things that APA needed to look at. We also had 5 sessions at the national conference last year. But we still need to do more in order to keep pace with this changing technology. And so we started to focus in on autonomous vehicles. And on October 6th, so almost a month ago, we held a symposium with the National League of Cities, the Brookings Institute, Eno Transportation Center, and Mobility Lab to identify the local and regional policy needs associated with the deployment of autonomous vehicles and related technology. And as you heard yesterday, we're expecting autonomous vehicles to hit our communities by 2020. I mean, we're even now talking about flying cars in Dubai and Dallas by 2020. I mean, I did find a picture there to kind of highlight that. But what this really means is we as planners have to get on the ball and get out in front of that and need to start preparing now. So what is APA going to do to help you respond to that? So from this symposium, a playbook of actions and agenda of further research is going to be made available to the public. So not just to our members, but to the public in our online knowledge base. We're also going to have Don Elliott release an article here in December on how you can update your code to incorporate some of these elements of smart cities. And then we're also working on a PAS report on autonomous vehicles. And so that'll be coming out later next year. So moving on to advocacy, we've done quite a bit of work here. We've realized we needed to retool and expand what we're doing because we really need you all to get out and speak about the value of planning and push back against the policies that are weakening our communities. This really has been one of my many priorities as president. As you've heard many times, we did start the Planning Advocacy Network, and this is our grassroots network to bring the planning agenda directly to our elected officials. It's also a great way for you to stay informed and engaged on a range of policy issues. And really, since last year's election, our Planning Advocacy Network has more than doubled. So you know that our planners, our members, are really concerned about what's going on. So to help us really have effective advocacy in these difficult times, we have heightened our policy focus to only 3 key messages. So invest wisely in infrastructure, bolster support for social equity and community development, and defend access to high-quality data. And so we really are working with Congress to advance our agenda. Now, regarding infrastructure, we have long supported the idea of an infrastructure bill. And thankfully, both parties agree on that, though they're not moving very quickly to do that. And so APA set forth a set of key principles for this legislation, and we have been out promoting these to Congress and the Trump administration. But it can't just be a package that looks at repairing our infrastructure, but it really needs to look at making sure that we address our broader social and political challenges. And it's important that we engage people in setting out a vision for their community and fund projects that improve shared prosperity, access to opportunity, and economic mobility. We're also advocating for just and equitable communities. You know, and this is one of the most critical issues that we are facing within our profession. And you know, it's been no secret that we have had a host of challenges to some of our core values as planners, as of open and inclusive communities, broad public engagement, and policies that protect the public interest in civic life in general. And all these policies have been political, economic, and social. So the key for communities today is not just how to create growth and jobs, but how can we do it in a way that promotes not only inclusive growth, but access to opportunity. Economic mobility is just as important as development. But the answer is not just moving people from distressed communities, but to find policies and tools to improve our neighborhoods without driving poverty elsewhere. So our members and our staff are working on new policy guides in 3 critical areas: planning and health, social equity and inclusive growth, and housing. And these guides are really going to help APA with our core policy positions and identify new ideas for improving local planning. And so I'm also in the process of appointing a task force both to foster social equity and what all you need to be doing, but as well as helping with the infrastructure front. Other things that we're doing is expanding our pro bono community assistance planning teams, where we bring planners, our own planners, to underserved communities to help with serious planning problems. And because of this effort, regional planning partnerships have been created because they are critical to our community planning assistance teams. We've also worked with a variety of partner organizations, local governments, philanthropic organizations, and organizations dealing with affordable housing. And through this process, we undertook the Prosperity Playbook. Now, the Prosperity Playbook has been completed, and it's an online resource that all of you can access that identifies strategies and policies for local governments and regional planning organizations to expand access to social and economic opportunity. And so since we've released this tool online, it has taken a hold with a lot of folks, and we've continued to expand upon that and building another partnership through APA and along with the National League of Cities, Enterprise Community Partners, and the Lincoln Institute on Land Policy. And so what we're doing as kind of the follow-up is creating a community of practice from 30 officials across the country to share ideas and challenges on how to promote opportunity, address housing challenges, managing community change, and advancing inclusive growth. So let me talk about our last research topic, or our last advocacy topic, in terms of data. And we all know that we need good data because it grounds our plans and codes in facts and reality. And interestingly enough, in order to engage people on a vision for their future, we're going to have to fully understand our current realities. Good planning practice and our ethics demand that we rely on sound, objective information because it helps us do our jobs, and it still does give us credibility with the public and elected officials. But we are under attack on this. So one of the critical roles that the federal government plays, and all you know this, is putting together our decennial census. And the federal government really is the only institution in a position to share a variety of the geospatial, economic, and social data for us. And so over the past years, things have been improving, and we've been partnering. We have Digital Coast partners, including NOAA, that ensures coastal data is readily available and able to use by local governments. So we've been increasing data regarding hazard zones and food deserts. And accessibility and availability has gotten better, and we even saw our first chief data officer under President Obama, who really did work to open up more of that data. But unfortunately, we are facing a new reality today. There have been massive cuts to our data programs. The federal census has been vastly underfunded compared to earlier counts. And our Census Bureau chief has resigned over concerns about the agency's future. And so here we are, a little more than 2 years from our most complex census in the history of our country, and we only have an interim chief. This is why we have made this a prominent priority and why I have issued a strong statement against the budget, because we are committed to preserving and improving the data that we need for good local and regional planning. So let me talk briefly about my last topic, education and member services. And if you haven't heard this by now, I'm really going to be shocked. All of you in January got access to our planning advisory service. So all the research we've done, all the publications that we've published, including the PAS reports, you can get those and download those directly from our site. We've also started rolling out our knowledge base on the website, but future rollouts will include the research and other initiatives of our staff and our divisions. And in 2018, our learning management system is going to go in place and is going to host all of APA's seminars, videos, and other educational resources so that you can download them on your tablets or your phones and listen to them while you're commuting in and getting your CMs. I also want to mention 2 new changes for members at APA. How many students do I have that got up early this morning? Okay, I only see a couple of hands. You guys, thanks for representing your group, but yes, that's disappointing. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret if you hadn't heard this. As of October 1st, any student member, whether full-time or part-time, if you're going back to school, doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're enrolled, you're going to have free membership in APA. Yes, that's awesome. You also get to sign up for 5 different divisions. You also are going to have your chapter membership for free, and Texas APA offers a lot of stuff for you. And you'll have access to all this research and knowledge base. And then after you graduate from school, you're going to be able to get reduced rates for another 2 years, including to our national conference. And we have a similar program for new members joining APA for the first time. Now, this last slide, I had to put this in here because, frankly, Glenn Larson, the president of AICP, who is sitting right down here, he would choke the living daylights out of me if I didn't talk about the AICP candidate program, which the commission just launched this week on Wednesday. And this is a tremendous opportunity for you small group of students that are in here, and I guess we'll share it with your other students as well. But as a student, you can go ahead and sign up for this program, which will allow you to track your continuing education credits, as well as being mentored by a certified planner. But then once you graduate, you can then sit for the test and take the test, and if you pass it, you can put AICP candidate behind your name. And you will also still get access to that mentoring and maintaining your continuing education credits. And then when you get the prerequisite experience, you'll have to write an essay, but then you will become a certified planner. So let me conclude with this. Sometimes we as planners may shy away from talking about planning as a tool to address the sort of challenges that I have laid out today. And maybe in tough political times, it seems best just to keep your head down and keep on moving. But we need to keep going. We need to keep our heads up, we need to keep our voices up, and we need to keep going. We need to help our communities understand the connection of how public engagement, our process, and our plans lead to very real project that creates places that people love and is an economic generator for our communities. And in today's world, we must celebrate and tell our communities' stories. that engage people and policymakers and advance the ideas that make for healthy, strong, and equitable communities. And I think at lunchtime today, we're going to see some of those stories. So that is what I need you guys to do. Thank you very much.